Let's look into the distant past, at a time when our planet was inhabited by great and powerful creatures, mammoths. These incredible animals lived here several 100,000 years ago. However, in order to fully understand their origin, we will have to go on an amazing journey through the centuries. As much as 40 million years ago, it was then that the first representatives of the proboscis family, the meritariums, appeared in the world. These small animals, only up to 1.5 meters high, bore little resemblance to their future descendants, the majestic mammoths. Their appearance could rather be associated with members of the pig family. Their living space was a habitat with small rivers and lakes. It is possible that these stretches of water were also home to other water creatures, such as amphibians. In the same distant period of time, there was another type of proboscis, watering mastodons. They remain known to us only from remote times, namely from the late Eocene and early Oligocene periods, which is about 40 million years ago. These ancient creatures roamed the territory of northern Africa and contributed to the formation of the family of Gomphotheri and mastodons. Two pairs of small oval tusks flaunted on the upper and lower jaws of proboscideans. Although the trunk of these creatures was also not large in comparison with mammoths and modern elephants, among all the ancient proboscideans, it was precisely the watering of mastodons that most resembled modern elephants. Mastodons appeared 35 million years ago and survived until only 10,000 years ago. During this huge time period, their ancestors, who stood at the origins of mammoths and modern elephants, have undergone significant changes in the course of evolution. They moved from Africa to all continents of the world, having survived the Miocene and Pleistocene epochs. In their height, mastodons reached up to 3 meters, and they had only one pair of tusks, although some males boasted an additional pair of short lower tusks. Different types of mastodons diverged in evolution over time, and thus the last species appeared, the American mastodon. The life expectancy of these animals averaged 50 to 60 years. There is a hypothesis according to which mastodons, originally considered as the ancestors of elephants, eventually separated from this branch, and this happened about 20 million years ago. Evolution completely changed their appearance, and by that time mastodons no longer had any resemblance to elephants. Hundreds of centuries have passed, and the mastodons were replaced by the founders of mammoths, Deinotheriums and rheas, ancient creatures that lived 24 million years ago. In these ancient animals, tusks were formed only in the lower jaws and, as they evolved, became larger and larger, reaching a height of up to 4 meters. By the way, Deinotheriums are considered a side branch of the evolutionary development of the proboscis, the majestic mastodons, belonging to the Gomphotherium family. In one of the species of the genus of which the palm can be distinguished, found their refuge in the northern part of America about 24 million years ago. This genus of stegodons, and representatives of a separate family, by the way, were the direct ancestors of mammoths and modern elephants. The oldest finds associated with these creatures in age date back to 8 million years ago, at the end of the Miocene. They lived in both Europe and Africa, and their sizes converged with those observed in modern elephants. Their upper tusks were long and massive, and they fed on tree branches and leaves. This brings us closer to the more related mammoth ancestors. One of these names translates as the first elephant or one elephant, and these creatures lived at the end of the Miocene, about 5 million years ago. They differed from mammoths and modern African and Indian elephants in small tusks located in the lower jaw, while the upper tusks were quite large, and the growth of one of the specimens was about 3 meters. A little later, about 2 million years ago, there was another ancestor of mammoths, known as the southern mammoth or southern elephant. This species of mammoth inhabited both Eurasia and North America, where a temperate climate reigned about 2 million years ago. This particular specimen of the mammoth had rather large tusks, reaching about 4 meters in length. Interestingly, the growth of this mammoth was also about 4 meters. The remains of the southern mammoth have been studied in detail. To date, as many as 7 complete skeletons of this ancient animal have been found, which can be seen in museums around the world. However, the question of whether the southern mammoth was covered in wool or not remains open. And now another name for it is born: the steppe mammoth, which is considered a direct descendant of the southern mammoth. In paleontological circles, it is sometimes also called by the official name dragon with a hyphen and great elephant by meaning. This giant lived in the Middle Pleistocene, about 500,000 years ago. His height was almost 5 meters, which made him significantly taller than his ancestors. The weight of this mammoth reached 10 tons, and the tusks of the males almost reached 5 meters in length. The habitat of the steppe mammoth covered the territory from western Siberia to the Stavropol territory. The main source of food for him was the vegetation that grew in the lowlands of the steppe regions. And of course, it is worth emphasizing that the steppe mammoths were among the first species of mammoths which, thanks to their dense, rough cover, were successfully adapted to life in a cold climate. Sometime later, about 400–250,000 years ago, separate branches separated from the steppe mammoths, which led to the appearance of animals known to us as woolly mammoths. Woolly mammoths inhabited the Earth during the Ice Age. The habitat for them was the middle strip of the steppe tundra. It is assumed that they lived, similar to modern elephants, in organized groups. These groups consisted of 2 or 3 individuals and were led by their oldest female. Males, in turn, spent most of their time alone and joined groups only during the mating season. Adult males reached a height of up to 3 meters, which is slightly larger than the size of modern Asian elephants. Woolly mammoths were widely distributed throughout the world, changing habitats in accordance with changes in climatic conditions and seasons. They were located both in the European part and in the southern territories of North America. Their diet was varied, and they ate plant food, which they found during constant migrations. On average, the woolly mammoth required up to 180 kilograms of food daily, and most of the time they spent in search of it. However, about 13,000 years ago, the main population of woolly mammoths began to die out. This process took place gradually, over many hundreds of years, and was associated with a sharp change in climate. The Ice Age was coming to an end, and mammoths could not adapt to the increase in temperature. The last remaining mammoths found their refuge on Rangel Island and spent another 5,000 years there. To date, there are 2 main hypotheses that explain their extinction. The first hypothesis is associated with climate warming, and the second, with the possible extermination of animals by primitive people. In this description, you were able to learn more about mammoths, and we hope that this information was interesting. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave your comments.